Ōhirume. Ōhirume is a dōjutsu ability used through Sarada Uchiha's Mangekyō Sharingan. Ōhirume allows Sarada to create up to 4 black spheres at the same time. Each sphere can range in size from 5 centimeters to 250 centimeters in diameter. Even though they don't look that big, these spheres generate gravity that is wildly disproportionate to their mass. The gravity they produce is extremely powerful and completely under Sarada's control. With this gravity, Sarada can pull in almost anything, including weapons, jutsu, and even living beings. By adjusting the strength of the gravitational force, she can pin enemies directly against the spheres and crush them, or she can detonate the spheres outright, causing a violent explosion. Only targets that Sarada directly looks at are affected by the gravitational pull. However, if the target is a living being, Sarada herself is also affected by the gravity as a side effect. To deal with this drawback, Sarada can control all 4 spheres at once to balance the gravity acting on her body, allowing her to levitate. By moving in sync with the spheres, she can also fly at extremely high speeds, in a way that closely resembles how the Otsutsuki move. This technique comes with major drawbacks. It consumes an enormous amount of chakra, and, like all Mangekyō Sharingan abilities, it causes eyesight deterioration that will eventually lead to blindness. When Sarada increases the gravitational force of a sphere, the strain becomes intense enough to make her active eye bleed. The very first time she used Ōhirume, the physical toll was so severe that she collapsed and lost consciousness. According to Koji Kashin, this technique is one of the most critical requirements for fighting the human god trees. And all of your comments have been the driving force that keeps me creating content and delivering unforgettable moments. We are aiming for the milestone of 50,000 subscribers. If you love Naruto, want to explore hidden details, exciting theories, and enjoy top-quality videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button now, and let's reach 50,000 together. Don't forget to comment about your favorite character or any ideas you'd love to see in the next video. Your feedback is truly valuable. Kokugan. The Kokugan, literally meaning black eye, is a super broken dōjutsu used by Ishiki Otsutsuki and later by Kawaki through his kama. Visually, this eye looks insane. It has a black pupil that glows gold whenever a jutsu is activated. Around that pupil is a black, weir-like pattern with 8 spokes spreading out from the center, and the space between each spoke is glowing gold. The design alone already screams endgame villain. Here's where it gets interesting. In the manga, after Ishiki was killed and appeared in front of Code as a spirit, the Kokugan changed. The number of spokes in his eye dropped all the way down to just 2, which is a huge visual clue that something fundamental about his existence had shifted. With Kawaki, the Kokugan behaves differently depending on how much power he's using. When he's not activating anything, the eye shows only 1 spoke. When he starts using techniques, the number of spokes jumps between 2 and 5, depending on what ability he's activating at that moment. Fast forward 3 years, and Kawaki reaches a whole new level. He can now use the Kokugan without activating kama at all. And when he fully uses it, all 8 spokes appear, just like Ishiki at his peak. Ability-wise, the Kokugan is absolutely ridiculous. Its main power is Sukuna Hikona, a shinjutsu that lets the user instantly shrink themselves, or any inanimate object or non-living matter within their field of vision, then restore it back to its original size whenever they want. No delay, no build-up, it just happens. Paired with that is Daikokuten, which takes this ability even further. Anything the user shrinks with Sukuna Hikona can be stored inside a separate dimension where time literally does not flow. Objects don't age, decay, or move unless the user decides they should. It's basically perfect storage, with 0 consequences. On top of that, the Kokugan can also summon massive black cubes. These cubes are not just for brute force. They can seriously disrupt sensory-type techniques, making it extremely hard for sensor ninjas to track or react properly. The eye also has a more subtle but terrifying ability. It allows the user to estimate a person's remaining lifespan. In the manga, this is shown through a flame-like shadow, while the anime presents it as reading a person's chakra. Either way, the user can literally look at someone and get a sense of how much time they have left. And if that wasn't enough, the Kokugan can also open standard space-time portals, allowing the user to move between dimensions freely. These portals can even be used to access the timeless dimension directly, without needing to activate Daikokuten at all. Jogan, the Jogan, which literally means pure eye, is a rare and unique dōjutsu, known only to the Otsutsuki clan. Members of the clan themselves describe it as a troublesome ability and a power that is deeply inherited through Otsutsuki blood. In the manga, the Jogan looks almost completely blank, with no special features, and only a barely visible pupil. In the anime, it is shown much more clearly, light blue in color, with a darkened sclera and a visible pupil, making it instantly stand out from normal eyes. When Boruto first awakened the Jogan during his time at the academy, he couldn't activate it whenever he wanted. Instead, the eye would turn on automatically, usually when Boruto focused intensely on a specific person or object. As Boruto grew older and became a teenager, he gained the ability to activate the Jogan at will. The Jogan allows the user to see the chakra pathway system in extreme detail, all the way down to the Tenketsu. This lets the user track changes in chakra flow and identify individuals based purely on their chakra signatures. It also has access to space-time ninjutsu, giving the user the ability to open portals and travel between different dimensions. On top of that, the Jogan has incredibly high analytical power. It can uncover hidden details, fully understand what's happening beneath the surface, and help the user react faster and more accurately to an opponent's next move. It can also see through invisible barriers that exist between dimensions, and even predict where those barriers will appear. The Jogan has a built-in danger sense. It activates automatically when high-level threats are nearby, including enemies that are normally impossible to detect. With enough mastery, the user can still choose to activate it manually whenever they want. Unlike other dōjutsu, the Jogan remains usable even if the eye itself is damaged in its natural state. The user keeps full vision and full access to all of its abilities, making it an absolutely abnormal and unfair power by ninja standards. Kama. Kama is a seal that acts like a highly compressed backup file of an Otsutsuki's entire biological data. An Otsutsuki can implant this seal into the body of a compatible person, called a vessel. Over time, the Kama slowly overwrites the vessel's DNA, rewriting their genetic profile step by step, until the vessel is transformed into a perfect Otsutsuki. If the original Otsutsuki is killed, their soul does not disappear. Instead, it moves into one of their vessels, anchors itself to the living world, and once the Kama finishes its process, the Otsutsuki will reincarnate through that body, completely replacing the original person. Before reincarnation is complete, the vessel can activate the Kama and tap into a portion of the Otsutsuki's power and abilities. During this phase, if reincarnation hasn't happened yet, the soul of the dead Otsutsuki can even manifest and temporarily take over the vessel's body. Here's the brutal part. Compatibility with an Otsutsuki is extremely rare and completely unpredictable. If someone is not a suitable vessel, the ritual usually ends with them suffering a fatal seizure. Most people simply die. In rare cases, an incompatible person survives the ritual, but the result is a strange variant called white Kama. These individuals cannot act as containers for an Otsutsuki's soul, meaning they cannot be used for reincarnation. They also cannot absorb chakra and cannot use space-time ninjutsu. However, they still keep the other traits of Kama, gaining tremendous raw power, and can even evolve into an entirely new Otsutsuki. Even so, they are not considered true celestial beings, because they are still affected by omnipotence. When activated, Kama dramatically boosts the user's physical stats. Speed, strength, and jutsu power all skyrocket. It also allows the user to absorb chakra and chakra-based attacks, including ninjutsu. These buffs exist for one main reason: to protect the vessel at all costs. Kama can also function as a medium for space-time ninjutsu. When used this way, the mark on the user's palm changes into a symbol resembling their horn pattern and opens a rift to any location, even across different dimensions. This technique is highly advanced. Jigen was able to use it alone, while Boruto and Kawaki initially had to cooperate just to pull it off. If a user properly draws on their Kama, something even crazier happens. They can overlay the accumulated combat experience of the Otsutsuki directly onto their own mind and body, instantly turning into a veteran-level fighter. According to Code, this is the true essence of Kama, and it grants an exponential increase in battle power. far beyond what the physical stat boosts alone provide. When this state is accessed, ring-like markings appear around the user's fingers. With enough experience, the Kama can evolve into an even more powerful stage. At this level, the user gains access to the Otsutsuki's unique abilities, including their Shinjutsu. The body itself starts to change. Horns grow, and the user awakens their dōjutsu, usually in one eye. According to Kawaki, realizing that he and Ishiki were fundamentally the same made him understand that anything Ishiki could do, he could also do, allowing him to intuitively grasp how his powers worked at an extremely fast pace. Boruto, on the other hand, was originally unable to access this state without Momoshiki taking over his consciousness. However, while under the effects of Amado's Byakugan suppressing medication, Boruto was able to partially tap into this power without losing control. Mitsuki's Sage Transformation. When we talk about new abilities introduced in Boruto, Mitsuki's Sage Transformation is easily one of the most eye-catching powers in the entire series. This is a one-of-a-kind ability that only Mitsuki possesses. And the crazy part is that he can activate it extremely easily, something very few characters in the Naruto universe can pull off. When Mitsuki enters Sage Transformation, a single horn grows from his forehead, and his entire body gets wrapped in a bright, glowing blue chakra. But the real standout isn't just the color or the horn. The true power lies in how that chakra behaves. This chakra isn't just a basic protective aura. Instead, it forms ghost-like chakra snakes that coil around Mitsuki's body. These snakes act like extensions of his body, able to attack independently by grabbing and biting targets on their own. That means Mitsuki isn't just fighting with his hands and feet anymore. He's backed up by a fully automatic secondary attack system, massively extending his range and turning him into a completely different kind of fighter. And then there's the speed. The speed Mitsuki reaches in this form is absolutely insane. There's a scene that perfectly shows this, where Mitsuki snatches both a scroll and a key straight from Orochimaru's hands. And the legendary Sannin doesn't even realize what happened until it's already over. That moment alone is a crystal-clear showcase of just how ridiculously powerful Sage Transformation really is. What makes Mitsuki even scarier is that he can actually stack Sage Transformation on top of Sage Mode, creating a double-layer power-up that's described as extremely dangerous if used for too long. At first, the consequences were brutal. When Mitsuki kept this combined state active, the cells in his body literally started breaking down. His internal organs suffered irreversible damage, to the point where he needed organ replacement surgery and had to be kept alive on life support systems. That's how unstable and destructive this power was to his body early on. However, 3 years later, in the Boruto timeline, Mitsuki's body has adapted massively. His tolerance shot up to the point where he can now fight for extended periods without suffering the extreme side effects he used to. And it's not just his stamina that improved. His chakra snakes evolved too. They became so powerful that they could break through Ryu's iron sand. The same iron sand that had previously effortlessly restrained Code at full power. That alone tells you how insane Mitsuki's growth really is. Now, let's compare this to a similar ability from Naruto Kabuto's Sage Mode. After absorbing Orochimaru's cells, Kabuto gained a massive chakra reserve, then traveled to Ryuchi Cave to learn Senjutsu from the White Snake Sage. And you know what? Kabuto can even maintain Sage Mode indefinitely. By copying Jugo's passive ability, Kabuto could constantly absorb natural energy from the environment, allowing him to stay in Sage Mode without any time limit. Visually, Kabuto's Sage Mode looks very different from Mitsuki's Sage Transformation. Kabuto only has markings around his eyes, 4 horns growing from the back of his head, and a transparent scale layer covering his eyes, which makes him immune to genjutsu. Kabuto himself described this evolution as transforming from a snake into a dragon. Power-wise, Sage Mode gives Kabuto heavily boosted jutsu output, enhanced physical attacks, stronger defense, higher speed and sharper reflexes, and advanced sensory abilities. On top of that, he can even inject natural energy into inanimate objects, effectively giving them life. The core difference between these two powers comes down to their nature and how they actually work. Mitsuki's Sage transformation is built for overwhelming offense. His chakra snakes attack automatically, non-stop, turning him into a walking area destruction machine. Once this power is active, it's all about pressure, aggression, and raw domination. Kabuto's Sage mode, on the other hand, is far more flexible. It focuses on control, manipulation of objects, and long-term sustainability. Kabuto doesn't just hit hard. He can adapt, control the battlefield, and stay in the fight indefinitely. That said, the truth is this. Even though Mitsuki possesses one of the most broken abilities in the entire Narutoverse power system, he still hasn't shown its full potential yet. Most of the time, he relies on launching chakra snakes and causing massive wide-area destruction, rather than using the ability in creative or highly technical ways. Looking forward, Mitsuki absolutely needs to evolve. If he wants to stand a real chance against alien-level opponents, he'll have to expand his skill set, sharpen his control, and push Sage transformation far beyond simple brute force usage. The power is already insane. The problem is that Mitsuki himself hasn't fully caught up to it yet. Rasengan Uzuhiko. Rasengan Uzuhiko is a special Rasengan created by Boruto Uzumaki. This version doesn't just use Boruto's own chakra. It also taps into what Boruto calls planetary chakra energy generated by the planet itself through rotation and orbit. That centrifugal force gets pulled in and fused directly into the attack, giving Uzuhiko theoretically unlimited power. Jura even points out that the core concept behind Uzuhiko works in a way that's very similar to the tailed beast ball. To prepare Uzuhiko, the user must stay in direct contact with the ground. Both feet have to be firmly planted so planetary chakra can flow straight into the body through the soles. The longer the user stays grounded, the more planetary chakra they gather. Because of that, the strength and overall effect of Uzuhiko scale directly with time spent charging. As this planetary chakra builds up, it becomes visible. The energy coils aggressively around the user's limbs and torso, almost like the planet itself is wrapping around them. This chakra doesn't just stay in the user's body. It can be transferred into other people simply through physical contact. Anyone affected starts experiencing noticeable disorientation, making it significantly harder for them to move properly or fight back. To actually land the technique, the user strikes the enemy with an open palm, usually targeting the chest or stomach. At that moment, the planetary chakra is forcefully injected straight into the target's body. At maximum output, Uzuhiko is absolutely lethal. A single hit is enough to kill. The chakra explodes into a massive swirling vortex inside the target, violently tearing their body apart and effectively disintegrating them. At lower output levels, Uzuhiko still hits hard, dealing damage comparable to a standard Rasengan. But the real danger comes after impact. The planetary chakra keeps rushing through the target's body non-stop, continuously inflicting internal damage. The victim is left in a permanent state of vertigo, completely destroying their sense of balance and severely reducing their motor control. These effects don't fade quickly. They persist semi-permanently, and only end if the user personally cancels Uzuhiko, or if the planet itself somehow stops spinning. Because of this, Uzuhiko doesn't just cause physical damage. It inflicts extreme psychological harm as well, making it brutally effective for interrogation and coercion. There are strict conditions to use this technique. The user must have both feet planted on the ground to activate Uzuhiko. Also, anyone capable of using the tailed beast ball can apply similar principles as a countermeasure, allowing them to neutralize Uzuhiko's effects. Shinjutsu, literally meaning divine techniques, are the highest tier chakra techniques in existence, and they are mainly used by members of the Otsutsuki clan. These techniques are on a completely different level compared to ninjutsu or even senjutsu. Shinjutsu do not require hand seals at all. The user simply activates them, and the result looks less like a technique and more like a god-forcing reality to obey. In universe, they're described as the works of gods. According to Amado, all ninjutsu are basically cheap imitations, human attempts to reproduce the effects of shinjutsu using limited methods, and hand seals. Shinjutsu can be passed down to humans through DNA infusion from an Otsutsuki. However, the process is purely luck-based. Even if someone receives Otsutsuki DNA, there is no guarantee they will awaken a shinjutsu, and most known recipients never awaken any at all. In rare cases, a person can awaken a shinjutsu right at the brink of death, as seen with Kashin Koji. Among all shinjutsu, omnipotence is stated to be the strongest one in existence. Sitting at the absolute top of the power hierarchy, Momoshiki has claimed that he possesses complete and intimate knowledge of every shinjutsu that currently exists, which alone says a lot about how deeply the Otsutsuki understand these powers. Interestingly, Hagoromo Otsutsuki's ninshu shows many strong similarities to shinjutsu. Like shinjutsu, his abilities did not require hand seals, and he was capable of creating life from nothing, something that normally sits far beyond conventional jutsu. There is also a strong possibility that Kekemora techniques either originate from shinjutsu or are a subcategory of it. These techniques existed before ninjutsu was even invented and share key traits with shinjutsu, such as not needing hand seals. However, things get messy here. The fourth databook officially classifies several of Kaguya's techniques as ninjutsu, even though those abilities predate Indra's creation of ninjutsu from ninshu. Vanishing Rasengan. The Vanishing Rasengan is a lightning release version of the Rasengan, created by Boruto Uzumaki and officially named by Sasuke Uchiha. Boruto first forms a small Rasengan, like normal. Then, without even realizing it, he subconsciously adds lightning release into it before throwing it. As the Rasengan travels forward, the nature transformation suddenly activates mid-flight. When that happens, the technique completely disappears from sight. This gives the Vanishing Rasengan a massive surprise factor. The enemy often assumes the Rasengan has already dispersed and lowers their guard. Then, out of nowhere, they get hit by an invisible attack they never saw coming. After the Mujina Bandits arc, the size of Boruto's Vanishing Rasengan increases significantly. It grows to roughly the size of a standard Rasengan, and if Boruto pours enough chakra into it, the technique can become giant. In the anime, Kakashi Hatake points out a major weakness. Because the Rasengan becomes invisible, it loses raw offensive power, making the technique fundamentally incomplete. Later on, Momoshiki Otsutsuki also comments on this, stating that the Vanishing Rasengan is too weak to deal a fatal blow. However, he notes that it is still extremely painful, especially when it hits a vital area. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.